Another subject, the Dpscd, the new school district here in Detroit, has a new superintendent. I saw a lot of people really upset about how much money we're going to pay this person. It's not new in school district sort of debates. It is a lot for Detroit. It is a lot for a system that has lost a lot of kids. We have fewer kids, in fact, in the system he led in Florida, and yet we're going to give him a big raise to come do it. Are we making the wrong choice here?
I mean, I'm not going to comment on his salary one way or the other, but I mean, it certainly comes in the same week in which the Detroit Federation of Teachers, which represents the teachers in the district, they were going to have, they said they had reached a deal on a contract, and then the executive board said, no, that's not a good enough deal. Yeah. Right. So I was in a school yesterday, and I was talking to an administrator who said, we haven't had a raise in all these years, and we really, we've got this teacher shortage, and that's actually probably the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges facing Vitti. He's got to fill all these empty classrooms that need teachers. Right. The teachers need a contract that's going to attract people and keep people. And so it's just kind of, this person I was speaking to yesterday was pretty upset about, what do you think of that contract? What do you think of that salary he's getting? And I'm like, listen, the reality is, if he can fix this school system, well, no one will complain. 3 years, no one will. But I'll tell you what, if he's not successful, that salary is going to keep coming up, and people. I mean,
you do have to attract talent, and that has been one of our problems in Detroit schools for a long time. Is that we have settled for, I think, people who probably couldn't get jobs in the best systems around town. But there again, I mean, this is Detroit. People look at something like that and think, good grief.
It's a different environment, though. I mean, I think it's a much more positive and inviting environment, the macro Detroit environment. I mean, I know there's huge challenges with the schools, but I think it's more inviting. And number two, it's what the market is. And whether the critics agree with it or like it or not, I think it's too much, they're not going to get him on the cheap, particularly if you want somebody that's going to perform. Yeah,
the market is part of the problem here, though. I mean, you've got this sort of space race aspect to school superintendents. I mean, people being paid ridiculous amounts of money to lead very small districts. There is not a great market excuse for all of that, I think.
I'm a DPS parent.
Right.
I have a son who is at Chrysler Elementary, and I just want to see performance. And I think that we have seen, I'm actually kind of excited about some of the innovations that Alicia Merriweather put on the table. I think that parents feel a sense of hope that we may have eluded us in earlier years. I mean, this merry-go-round and revolving door of superintendents that we've had, it's just been, I mean, no one's ideas had an opportunity to germinate, because everyone, you throw an idea, then you're out the door 5 minutes later. So, I mean, I'm hoping that the new superintendent will be successful. I'm hoping that, and I think the loyal opposition is important too. I think we need to have all voices at the table. And as a parent, I think everyone is going to be watching very closely.
So what do we expect that Vitti can do in, let's say, the next 18 to 24 months, which will be critical because everyone will be paying attention. But of course, the problems in the system are so widespread and so deep that I think you got to keep expectations under control. What can he do in that first run that will wow people?
I mean, I think if he can change the narrative, that'll go a long way to helping, not fixing, but addressing some of the other problems, right? So if he can rebuild trust, think about how many Detroit families used to have their children in DPS and now won't. Right.
I'm one of them.
There you go.
Right.
So those are families that if he can somehow convince them to come back, not all of them, but a few, he could sort of work on the enrollment problem, which will bring more money in. If he can convince the business community to really get behind him, he could be looking at other sources of funds, right? Get partnerships. During his interview, he talked about maybe we could have a program for teachers where they could get mortgage benefits or something like that. Right. So you can sort of address the teacher shortage in creative ways. That's going to take money. It's going to take people somehow believing in him and in the team he puts together and in the direction he's taking the district.
And that will actually have change.
It's all about relationships. I mean, covering management CEOs all over the state, I can tell you, I look at this and I'm thinking it's all about relationships, and it starts with his relationship with Alicia Merriweather, I think, and he's already been on the record in saying that he wants to find a place for her. Well, he needs to make good on that. That will, I think, help him with credibility. I think the business community would absolutely stand ready to support him, no question about it. But again, it's about him building the relationships, going out and talking to the right people, and then following up. And the third thing is having a more workable, almost peer-to-peer relationship with the union.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I admire Mayor Duggan for is that he goes out of his way, at least rhetorically, to talk about how he sees the Detroit City Council as a partner.
Yes.
I think Vitti should do the same thing.
Rhetorically, right?
I mean, but I think there does seem to be more peace than there has been in that relationship.
Because he works that way.
Well, he does.
He's very good at that.
He does,
Right.
and I think that Vitti would do well to really reach out to DFT. Teachers in the state have been vilified for so long.
Yeah.
They have not received a raise. I mean, we are talking. I have a very close friend who has 46 students in his class.
Wow.
He teaches he has a 7th grade class that has 46 students, and he's still getting the same salary that he got, 3 or 4 years ago. So I mean, it's hard to look at those teachers and just say, well, you just have to suck it up. At some point, we have to, if we value education, we have to also value educators, and I think that he would do well to very early on establish a good relationship with those teachers.
One of the things I heard the mayor say in the last few weeks is that he wants to take another run at this Detroit Education Commission. He thinks now that the person who was principally against that is no longer in the state and is in Washington, we might get that done. Would that help Vitti with this sort of rebranding of the district if the charter schools had to play by the same rules or some rules?
I think, Vitti came out strong during his interview process with this, I'm going to put charter schools out of business.
Right.
And I know that certainly ruffled a lot of feathers in the charter school world.
Right.
And I get why he said that, and I think that was certainly important with this school board, with the people who support the traditional district schools in Detroit. But the reality is, a lot of the problems for Detroit children in general is the lack of cooperation between the districts and the charter schools. Right. There are a lot of problems that would be much easier to address collaboratively. Transportation is the first one, which could also help address chronic absenteeism, which is a major problem both in charters and in district schools. Yeah. All kinds of other things could be done.
And the DEC would give us some of that cooperation, right?
The DEC would actually be a great framework, or some kind of collective or entity would be a great way of bringing them together. Yeah. The way it played out last year was extremely divisive, as we all know.
We just need to have accountability for all schools in our district and in our city, and we just don't have that now, and it's unfair. And
it's really hard as a parent.
It is hard as a parent.
It's really hard to explain to people who don't have to deal with it how hard it is if you're just trying to look for a school for your kids to evaluate, okay, which one of these is decent, which one's going to be around in 5 years. It's pretty chaotic.
Very chaotic.
Yeah. All right. Guys, we could talk all hour, but we cannot do that. So we're out of time. Thanks very much for being here.
Thank you.